Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. If you're watching this, you're here to watch Dave's memorial video. If you're new to YouTube and you aren't quite sure as to why YouTube is so small right now, if you go somewhere around this area, there's a little square button that says full size or full screen. If you click on that, it'll expand the whole thing instead of trying to watch it on a tiny little thumbnail on the website. Again, thank you all for attending and watching this video. My name is Daniel. I've known Dave for about 8 years now. I first met Dave at a shop that I worked at owned by a mutual friend of ours, Rick Kaplan. Dave was just like any other guy that would come in talking about hot rods, having us work on his hot rods, and would sit there and bench race with us all day long. And then the more he came in, the more I grew to love the guy. We could talk about anything. You could talk about knife making. You could talk about jewelry making. You could talk about cooking. The guy even brewed his own beer and other alcohol. I mean, the guy made some killer moonshine. The more and more I talked to him, every day he would come into the shop, it was always something new. He was either bringing lunch in or bringing one of his cars in for one of us to work on. He was just a hoot to be around. There was never a dull moment. He always had something fun to say or some hilarious story about something he had done in the past. He will be missed, definitely. Just to kind of go over what you're going to experience in this video, you're going to watch my video, and then after me, you're going to watch a slideshow of Dave's life coming home in his parents' vehicle all the way up until just about the very end. Pictures of his memorial that we had thrown for him. After that, you're going to watch the rabbi tell us a few stories and things like that about Dave Wilson. After the rabbi, you will then see videos of the memorial, a few stories and things like that of the memorial that the old school 66 Cruisers had thrown for him. And after that, then you will see Billy's video and her saying her last goodbye. After you're done watching this video, if you go back home, you can watch just the slideshow alone on one of the other tabs. It'll be on the right side. And then if you'd like, there was some very, very good stories that weren't shared via video, but they were shared via text or email. If you scroll down the home page, there is a tab that says Stories of Dave Wilson Told by Loved Ones and Friends. Thank you all for attending. Thank you all for watching. I hope you guys enjoy and have a great day. Dave will be missed. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I wanna talk with all by myself. I want to walk with, but I'm happy on the shelf. Ain't misbehaving, saving my love for you. I know for certain the one I love I'm through with flirting, just you I'm dreaming of. Ain't misbehaving, saving my love for you. Like Jack Horner in the corner, don't go nowhere, why do I care? Your kisses I was waiting for, believe me. I don't stay out late, don't care to go. I'm home, my body, just me and my radio. Ain't misbehaving, saving my love for you. Diddy-bum, diddy-bum, da-da-da-da-da, diddy-bum, diddy-bum, like Jack Horner in the corner, don't go nowhere, what do I care? Your kisses I was waiting for. I don't stay out late, don't care to go. I'm home, my body, just me and my radio. Ain't misbehaving, saving my love for you.
Shame, but don't you cry, don't sigh, I'll tell you why. I'll never say goodbye. Blue angel, sha-la-la, doo-wee-wah, bum bum bum, yep yep bum, wah 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 wah. Bum bum
Good evening, good morning, wherever you're listening to it, wherever you are. My name is Rabbi Shalom Harlik. I'm the rabbi for the Chabad of the Inland Empire, in the Inland Empire. And a little bit of history, I met Dave a little over 10 years ago. And the way I met him is an interesting story that I was in downtown Upland, walking out of a shop, and Dave was also walking out of the shop at the same time, and then he realized that I'm Jewish, and I realized that he was also Jewish, so we started talking. And then he turns around to me, and I never met him before, and he turns around to me and says, I have a question to ask you. I see you're a rabbi, right? And I said, yes, I am. So I have only a question to ask you. I said, what is that? And he says, are you a real rabbi? I said, I think I'm a real rabbi. What does a real rabbi mean to you? He says, I'll tell you. I met the other day different rabbis who don't really believe in the Jewish religion, who believe in other religions, and that's not the kind of rabbi I'm looking for. So therefore I want to know if you believe in the Jewish religion, the one God, and not in other religions. And I said, that's exactly who I am, and I only believe in one God and one Judaism and one Torah. And that's why I moved there in the Inland Empire at that time. Now we're here over 32 years. And I told him I'm living here all these years to reach out to the community and help them out with their physical and spiritual needs. And that's exactly what I'm here for. He said, that's very, very nice. And I'm happy to hear that. And he says, and here's my card. And let's keep in touch. And that's really how the relationship started over 10 years ago. And a few interesting, it stopped?
No, it didn't. It's still recording.
Okay, because I don't see myself.
Oh yeah, I just went to sleep.
Okay, so I should continue talking, okay. So that's how the relationship started with me and Dave. And I would come up, eventually I came up to his house. I'm not sure exactly how long that was after I met him. And I'd come before every Jewish holiday to visit him. Actually, I remember in the beginning, when I used to come to him, he was very, very proud to just remind me as I'm talking now, because I didn't really take any notes. It's hard for me to speak for notes. I'm just speaking from my heart. So he said to me that his wife is at the moment visiting a relative of hers. I think it was her mother, right? She was visiting her mother and taking care of her mother. And he was like very proud to me when he told me that about his wife, that he was very happy that she's doing that at the moment out of town and visiting her mother. And so he showed to me that he really believed that even though he was, when I came to the house to visit him, he was himself, but he was so proud that that's what his wife was doing, because that's what the right thing to do is in Judaism. Another interesting thing is what I understood from him, that he came from a traditional Jewish upbringing, from an Orthodox upbringing, and Judaism was very, very important to him. And one of the ways that I noticed it, that when I got to know him later, he had with a walker, and it was hard for him to walk. So when I came for the Jewish holidays to shake the lulav and the etrox, the palm and the willow, he was very, very excited about it. And then I told him I have a sukkah truck outside. He says, really? And he started laughing. He says, I can't go on the truck, but I want to look at it. And he came to see what the sukkah truck looks like. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I'll tell you a very, very interesting concept in Judaism. In Judaism, it says that righteous people have no rest, even after they move on from this world to the next world. And the commentators ask a question: if they're righteous people, shouldn't they have rest when they leave this world? So the commentators explain that everything you enjoy doing in this world, dancing, eating a sandwich, listening to music, there's a beginning and end for that enjoyment, because we're limited people, we're in a physical body, and that enjoyment is limited. When the soul leaves this world and it moves on to the next world to be in the presence of God, as God has no end, that enjoyment is no end. And not only all the good deeds that Dave did all his life helps him be in the presence of God, but all the good deeds that each one of us will continue doing in his honor, that also helps his soul to being in the presence of God. And as God has no end, that's why it says the righteous people have no rest. Even after they pass on, because the reward is to be in the presence of God based on all the good deeds it did, and all the good deeds will continue doing in that person's honor. That's what it means. It doesn't have any rest, because it's because the soul already left the body, and therefore that enjoyment is like a being in a spiritual bliss. So one of the suggestions that I could give that you could do, anything you could do, a good deed in his honor, is good for his soul. For example, if you could say somebody in a nice way, good morning, help somebody, an elderly person, cross the street, if somebody needs any other kind of help, whatever that is, when you do it, say to yourself that you're doing it in honor of Dave's soul, and that's, God knows about it, and God will be aware of that, and that helps. As good as a good spot his soul is, it continues getting even better and better. There's no end for something good. And I would like to also finish with an interesting story that Dave was really inspiration to me. So after knowing him for many, many years, for the last part of his life, he landed up living in, I think the word is called an assisted living place. And I would go on a regular basis to visit him. And sometimes my wife would come with me, sometimes my kids would come with me, sometimes my grandkids would come to me. And it showed to me how he gave everybody attention. So once I brought one of my grandkids to him, and he's like 5 years old, and Dave was wearing a certain kind of hat, and he had letters on the hat, and he turned around to my grandkid, and he says, you know what, I'm going to teach you how to write some English, copy the letters that it says on my hat. And that was the first time my grandkid started writing these words. And Dave asked him if he wants to keep it, and we gave it to him as a gift. And then as we're having now the holiday of Hanukkah, so I'll tell you a story that happened last year, Hanukkah, actually. So when I told him, as always, we're going to come visit you for all the different holidays, as we always did, I said to him, next time I'll see you, because that was like a few weeks before Hanukkah, I'll see you next time I'll be back for Hanukkah. We're going to bring some holiday traditions, some latkes and some other stuff, and make a little Hanukkah celebration. We'll have the different people singing some songs. So he says, Rabbi, I have a good idea for you. Why do you only have to do the Hanukkah celebration just for me? Let's do it for everybody else in this place that I'm living at. So I see, then he tells me, you know, Rabbi, I know all the people over here. I said, how do you know all the people there? I thought you just one of the people living here. He says, I have a job in the morning, either once a week or twice a week. I'm not sure how many days a week he did it. What he told me, that he does deliveries, I think, for packages as a mail he sent me. So therefore, I'm called an ambassador, and I know the whole area over here. So he says, okay, so what would you like from me? He says, I would like to become your ambassador for the work of Chabad and Empire, and let's invite everybody to the Hanukkah party. I said, I'll be happy to do it. He says, I'm not sure how many people are going to come to the Jewish faith over there, but could we open it up for everybody? And I said, sure, anybody who wants to come to the Hanukkah party. And it was a very, very nice, big success. And I watched him today, and actually, the other day, we emailed Billy one of the pictures of the Hanukkah party, but we gave everybody all the arts and crafts. So not only he did it himself, even though it was hard for him to walk around, but he was in a wheelchair, he helped all the other seniors do the arts and crafts. And when I started singing old Yiddish songs over there, I really saw that his soul started talking. And I didn't see that, I didn't see it, I didn't know about that, and I didn't realize it. And when I started singing old Jewish songs, he had tears coming out of his mind. He was so happy, and he was like in another world. We sang old Yiddish songs, old Hebrew songs, and unbelievable what I watched. That was a big inspiration for me too. He knew it, he was involved with it, and he thanked me very much for coming. And that's what I hope. I'm not going over time. I'm going to finish off with a prayer in Hebrew. But I want to just say one word about Hanukkah. There is a question asked, why do you light Hanukkah, the menorah, at night? That's going to be in a few weeks. Why don't we light the Hanukkah menorah in the morning? To come to remind us and to teach us that the Hanukkah light represents the good deeds that Dave did, and we're all going to continue doing in his honor. And the reason why we light it at night, because the world might be a little dark around us, different division, different ideas. And Hanukkah comes to remind us that our good deeds is the light. And the reason why we light it at night, because you can walk in the room and the room is dark, you might take a stick and you might think, oh, I want to get rid of the dark. How can I get rid of the dark? By hitting it with a stick. And when we hit it with a stick, we're going to get rid of all the dark. And the rabbis say, no, that's what the Hanukkah comes to teach us. When the room is dark, the world is a little dark, little problems in the world, you don't have to take a stick to get rid of the dark. You got to do a good deed. That represents the light. And just like when you walk in the room, when you switch on the light, or a little light, a little candle, like we have right here, some light, it brightens up the whole place. And that's the reason why we light the Hanukkah menorah at night, to remind some teachers that each one of us who are watching this video, whatever time you're watching this thing, that each one of you are the light. And by doing the good deeds, you automatically light up the world. And that's why Hanukkah, every day, we add another candle to bring more and more light into the world. And now I would like to conclude with a prayer, as David comes from a traditional Jewish family, and we're going to say the prayer. Originally was written by King David a few thousand years ago. It's in the Psalms of David, Psalm 23. I'll first read it in Hebrew in honor of Dave's soul, and then he will say it in English. His Hebrew name, I assume, is David in Hebrew, and his mother was Mildred, Malka, and we'll do it in that honor. Ben Avram also. We'll first say it in Hebrew, and then we'll do it in English. Mizma leDavid Adonai Eloi lo echsor bin doisteshi abetzeni amem menuchos inaleni nafshi yishev in achenim al tzedek b'man shmoi gam ke'elach begeitz amoves lo yiro ki ati modi shiftecha mishamtecha heima yinachmuni tarech lefonai shulchan neged tzorei tashemte v'shem roish k'kais v'vayai achtoi v'chesed v'unik kol yimei chayai. If you want to know what I read, there's altogether 150 Psalms. We don't have tonight's time to read all of them, but we're just going to translate you Psalm 23. If anybody has your own paper, you're familiar with it, you'll be able to read it on your own, so therefore I'm going to read it slow. It goes like this. A Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters. He revives my soul. He directs me in the paths of righteousness for the sake of his name. Even if I will walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they will comfort me. You will prepare a table for me before my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup is full. Only goodness and kindness shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for many long years. With this, we conclude the services in honor of Mr. Dave Wilson. But I thought of it as I'm reading the prayers, that I would like to say that this year Hanukkah, as every year, we're here in the Inland Empire for 32 years. We visit all different kind of people. So I would like to dedicate our visits this year, reaching out to the people on Hanukkah with menorahs and candles, whatever, our kids' arts and crafts, all the different things we can do for Hanukkah, which we're starting already, in honor of Mr. Dave Wilson's soul. May his memory be for blessing for all of us. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Ginger. I'm David's daughter. I wanted to share a couple of memories of my dad with you. As many of you know, my dad was a man that knew a little bit about everything. He could run a business, he could raise chickens, he could make jewelry, he could work on a car. He had a great passion for cars. He loved Crosleys and the oddballs, like the Messerschmitt and the Isetta. My dad was a loving father. He could be a pretty strict dad. Nothing got past him for sure. He gave me some odd advice when I was in second grade. I would go to the bus stop and there was a bully there that would hit me sometimes. And so I'd come home crying and my dad would ask me what happened. And I told him and he said, hit him back. And that was unusual advice for my dad to give me, but I was ready. Had my dad behind me telling me what to do. And so I went to school a few days later, went to the bus stop and the bully was there and he hit me again. So came home and I was crying and my dad asked me what was wrong. And I told him, my dad said, well, did you hit him back? And I said, no, he wouldn't turn around. Well, that got a big chuckle out of my dad and a big hug. So I'm going to miss my dad. He was a good man.
Okay, today we're here at the Upland Memorial Park. This is where we have our once a year Spark of Love toy drive, and we weren't able to do it this year. So we're doing a memorial for Dave Wilson that has passed, and we thought it was appropriate to do it here at the park. Dave loved the Spark of Love Toy Drive. Our club is all about giving back to the community, and that was Dave's philosophy. Another thing about Dave was Dave was always upbeat, willing to give anybody anything. Just an all-around good guy. He will be missed. If Daniel will pan around, you'll see some of the cars here in support of Dave. Like I said, you couldn't ask for a better guy. Even in the condition that Dave was in, I would call him, and he was always upbeat. So that's what this gathering's all about. Dave, I hope you enjoying yourself with all the car guys up there. It still affects me. Okay, thank you.
Well, as some of you may know, Dave and I have known each other since the 4th grade. I think my first memory of him was playing softball on the schoolyard softball field. Anyway, we went all through high school together, but we reconnected on Facebook, of all things, after we were all married and grown up and everything. And there's one story about him that I thought was really funny. After he and Billy bought the house in San Antonio Heights, he messaged me and said, "When are you going to come and see the house, Cindy?" And I said, "Well, you know, let me talk to Donna," which was a mutual friend of ours, "and see when she's available to come." I said, "Do you still have the Woody?" He said, "Oh yeah, I have it, but it's up high and you need a ladder to get to it." And I said, "Dave, do you know how that sounds?" He said, "Naughty, naughty, Cindy." But Dave was so kind, so helpful, and I really loved him. I just felt like he was my big brother. Really sad that he's gone.
Met Dave at a car show, and I want to say it was around Taco Hut ages ago, when the club first started, and he wanted us to join because he liked the car that Roy had. And I kept saying, "I don't want to be in a club," and he said, "Oh, but you got to be in this club." So we ended up joining the club, and it was right after the club had started, and him and Scotty were sitting there, and we joined the club. And years later, after he became president, and then he quit, they had nominations, Roy ended up being president, and has been president ever since. But Dave was always there with helpful suggestions, or trying to get us to do something else, or he always had a hand, or let me help you with this. Whatever he could do, he always was there with us. Loved the guy. Big teddy bear to me. I loved him. I'm so sad that he's gone, but he's much better place now. He's looking down on us. He's looking at every single dang car we have. Thanks.
Go ahead.
All right, then Dave Wilson is a good friend of mine, the president of our club, Old School 66 Cruisers. Dave was the most generous person I've ever known. And he, again, never complained, never said a word about anybody, bad or anything. He just was a guy who worked his buns off for this club. Our members took care of us as much as possible as he could. And Dave was just a great guy. I used to go visit him at the house. We'd sit around, chat, have a beer, do our thing. him and I were just cruising all the time, and that was Dave. He had some mighty nice cars in a club, done so much for the club at the time. Like I say, never one complaint ever out of Dave. He went on with the city problems, permits, etc., whatever it took to be at this club, keep it going. So other than that, I just want to say, sure as hell miss that boy, let me tell you. So other than that, I'm going to say goodbye. My name's John Regina, and everybody stay safe and be careful, please. All right, catch you later. Bye.
Hi, I'm Mike McCowan, and I'm with Old School 66 Cruisers. And I've known Dave Wilson since the start of the club. I'm one of the original members, and there's not many of us left. We've been burying a bunch of them. But Dave Wilson was a very nice, caring human being. He, now I'm not to say that Dave and I didn't get into it a couple times, man. but we had different opinions about certain things, but then we always made up. Because I would do anything for Dave and Billy, and Dave would do anything for me that he could. And Dave was just a great guy. When he was the president of Old School, he did an excellent, excellent job. And Dave will never be forgotten. I still got some stickers of him that I'm handing out to people for their cars that say Old School 66 Cruisers. I made some, but he made some other ones on his own. He was always buying machines to make things with, and then he'd lose interest. Yeah, I won't say what I'm thinking, but but yeah, anyway, we're gonna miss David, and we'll always think of him at the shows and stuff. So thank you for letting me share, and have a great Sunday, man.
Thank you for joining us to celebrate Dave's life, a life well lived. I thought I'd share with you the story about how I met Dave, because most people probably don't know that I met Dave when I was in my late 40s. It was the very early days of dating online, and I was living in West LA, and one night it was very, very, very late, and I couldn't sleep, and I went online to look at men in the Inland Empire. I lived in West LA, so the Inland Empire was far away. Well, I found Dave. I sent him a message. He answered me, and for the next year we communicated online. We compared stories about our dates. And after about a year, we decided to talk on the phone. So we talked on the phone, and we really got along very well. So we decided to meet. And for our first date, I violated my 2 cardinal rules of a first date. Never have a man come to your house on your first date. And I did. I invited Dave to pick me up at my home. And never have a date on a Saturday night. We made the date on a Saturday night. Dave and I went out to dinner that night, and on the way to the restaurant, I thought, well, Dave needs to know a little something about me. So I let him know that we had to stop and feed some feral homeless cats on the way. So he learned something pretty important about me. I'm a little bit nuts when it comes to animals. Dave and I had a wonderful time. The first time I met Dave in his environment, I came out to the Inland Empire. He was renting a house in Colton with a friend, and I learned something about Dave. He's a little nuts too. I went into his bedroom and noticed he's got car parts in his bedroom. Carburetors on the floor, and the hood of a car is leaning against the wall. Okay, so he's a little weird too. Anyway, the rest is history. Dave and I got married, and we had many wonderful years together. Dave made me laugh every day. He made me laugh at myself, and I loved him very much for that. So I will take this time now to say goodbye to Dave. Dave, I love you. I will miss you until we meet again.